Hello, friends. I'm Pastor Dave, and it's Wednesday, which means I get to share a story with you. Today's story doesn't come from just one book. Today is the day of Epiphany. It's the day when we celebrate God's showing up in the lives of people in the world. It's the day of the three kings. It's the day the three kings found baby Jesus. Today's story is called The Legend of La Befana, and it is an epiphany story. And I have read so many different kinds of stories about La Befana that I'd like to mix them all together and tell you my own version of La Befana. And I hope that you like it. I'm sorry there are no pictures today. A long, long time ago, there was a small village in the countryside. And on the edge of that village, there was a tiny house that was remarkable for two reasons. First, it was undoubtedly the cleanest house that you have ever seen. And secondly, it smelled better than any home you've ever visited. And inside that little home lived a very old woman whose name was Strega Befana. Now, while other people were happy to go roaming about the village or even travel all over the world, La Befana was happiest inside the coziness of her own little house. She was busy all winter long, and she would sew toys for the families who didn't have enough money to buy fancy ones, and she would sell them to them at a very good price. She would make herbal remedies and potions to sell to people who weren't feeling well, or she made the most amazing bread and cookies that you've ever eaten. And she was also busy, very, very busy, cleaning her home. She swept the floors at least 3 times every day, morning, noon, and night. And if there was one thing that Strega Befana hated, it was a dirty house. Now, while she depended on other people to buy the things that she created, La Befana didn't actually like people very well, and so she never allowed them to come inside her house if she could avoid it. She sold them their toys or their cookies or their ointments, and then she sent them away. She led a clean, quiet life, and she didn't want anybody messing with that. One night, when she had finished sweeping out the last stair and had pulled in the lantern and had blown out the light, she was presented with a mystery. Her home was not dark. Well, she checked the lantern, and it was indeed out, but the light was coming in through the window. "Why is it so light?" Strega Befana wondered, and she looked out the window, and she saw that the star was brighter than anything she'd ever seen in her life. It was the brightest star she'd ever seen. And she started to think about it, but then she was interrupted by a knock at the door. "Visitors? At this hour? Who's bothering Strega Befana so late?" she wanted to know. If it wasn't bad enough with the sky all lit up, now I have company. Nobody had ever come to visit Strega Befana this late before. So she peeked out her window, and she saw an old man who was very magnificently dressed. I mean, he had a face that was very tan. His clothes were brightly colored. They were covered with dust from the road, but he looked very wise. His shoes were muddy, and he looked tired from his travel. She opened the door reluctantly, and he stepped inside with his dirty shoes and his muddy pants. "Good evening," he said. "I'm sorry to be disturbing you at such a late hour, but I'm lost. I'm on a great mission. I have seen a sign that the child has been born, the one who will lead us all in the years to come. This child is divine. He's full of joy and hope and love. I know that he is sent from God above. I have brought gifts to this child, and I want to give him my heart as well." The old man saw the little toys and the things on the shelves in La Befana's home. "Oh," he said, "you could come with us. These things that you sell, they would be a fit present for a king who is a baby." Well, Befana wasn't too sure about that. She didn't like the fact that this man was dressed so funny and that he was out there following the stars, and he was muddy. "No, no, no," she said. "I don't know anything about this child. I can't help, and I certainly don't want to go out following a star or some other such nonsense." She showed him the way to the door, and she reached for her broom to start sweeping up the mess. And no sooner had she started cleaning when there was another knock on the door. She saw another man, also dressed quite finely. "What do you want?" she yelled through the closed door. He said, "I need directions, my friend. I am also looking for supplies for a journey." The second gentleman and his friends came inside. Like the first, their boots were covered with grime and dirt. "My friend," he said, "we are seeking a child of light, one who will become a king. We go to bring our gifts to him and to offer him our hands. He will bring good news to the poor and to change the world. Why don't you join us as we seek him?" Once more, Strega Befana assured him that she was not at all interested in anything like that. So she sold them what they needed, and then she sent them on their way. She thought that they had all gone, but she looked out, and there was still a young boy, and he was holding a camel. "Please, Befana," he said, "come with us. We will find the king, and he will be good news for all people. He will love and he will help the poor. There is still time. Enjoy us. Come and join us." But Strega Befana just closed the door and collapsed into her chair. She looked at her room. It had been so clean. She set down her broom and she decided she would take a quick nap before she cleaned it up again. But as soon as she sat down to rest, the oak door was pounded on one more time. She didn't even get up. She just yelled at the door, "Go away! I don't know anything about this child. Everyone is trying to find. Please leave at once. I will not come. I'm not interested in selling anything." Whoever it was that had been knocking went away slowly, and La Befana finally started to finish cleaning up her house. She muttered and she sighed as she swept. "Coming to serve the poor. Puh! Oh, Befana is poor. Does this baby care for her? I think not." But when she opened the door to sweep out the dirt, she let out a small cry. Because there in the distance, something bright caught her eye. It was a wondrous new star in the deep blue sky. Something had changed, and she realized that this was not an ordinary star. It was not an ordinary day. She thought back to those lost gentlemen and the king that they were seeking and the gifts that they had brought. That star, those visitors, they were right, she said to herself. Maybe it's not too late for me to go. I'll find them. I will go with them and present my gift to the child king. But what could I take? She set down her broom and she went to the kitchen. All day long she baked. When she was not baking, she was clearing the little toys from her shelves, throwing everything into a large bag. She put on a shawl and she opened the door. She grabbed her broom and she thought, I imagine that when I find the baby, his mother will not have had time to clean. I can help her with the sweeping of the house. But as she stood at the door looking back into her own home, La Befana noticed that there was a speck of dust in the corner of the living room. And she thought, well, now, how would it be if I were to go on a trip and leave my own home a mess? So La Befana put down her sack and she started to sweep. She got the speck of dust and then she swept the room and then the other room and she swept the steps and she even swept the walk outside. finally, hours later, she was ready to leave, and she glimpsed the star all right, and she walked toward it. She was in such a hurry that she began to run, and she ran as fast as she could, but it was a long way, and she was old, and she got tired, and she started to walk, and she thought, this is no good. I'll never find this baby. I don't even know where he is. And sure enough, when she looked at the sky again, she wasn't even sure which star was the star. She sat down and cried, and she started to walk home when she saw a house with an open window. She looked inside, and there was a child sleeping inside. I wonder, she said, could this be the one? Is this the one who was born to be the king? Maybe I better leave something just in case. And the further that old Befana walked, the more sleeping children she passed. And in every home she left a small gift, and she swept it a little cleaner with her broom, because she said, after all, I'm not sure which of these was born to bring good news to the poor and to change the world. Well, La Befana never caught up with the wise men, and she never made it to Bethlehem. And she's still not sure which child they came to see. So now, every year, on the eve of the Feast of Three Kings, and that's what today is the Feast of the Three Kings, the story is told of a sad old lady who flies around on her broom, bringing little treats to all the children. She's happy that she can share what she's been given, but she's sad because she wasn't able to welcome the Christ child. And she didn't receive visitors in her home. And she's decided that from now on, she'll never miss the chance to show kindness to strangers or to welcome visitors, and do that so that she can follow the Star of Bethlehem. La Befana didn't know how to find Jesus, who would preach good news to the poor and who would bring hope to all people. So she decided herself to become somebody who would do those things. Do you know you can do that? I can do that. We can make the world better for the people around us. That's a choice that we get to make every day by being kind, by being thoughtful, by recognizing that other people are special. I'm so glad to be here with you. I'll look forward to next week when we can spend some more time together. I'm Pastor Dave. I'll see you then. Goodbye.